After declaring the biggest bankruptcy in US history in 2013 and losing its population from 1.8 million in the 1950s to just over 620,000, no one thought Detroit could make a comeback. But the city is proving everyone wrong. With the help of Bureau Happold, Detroit Future City, Bedrock and Ford Motor Company, 8 projects are now underway. These are going to rebuild the economy, restore historic landmarks, and revive the city's forgotten streets. But what exactly are these projects and how will they change the city's future? Before we rev up Detroit's comeback story, make sure to subscribe for more mega projects and city transformations from around the world. Before we tell you about Detroit's huge comeback, you need to understand what really went wrong. This story started in the summer of 2013. That's when the city declared bankruptcy with $18 billion in debt. It was the biggest municipal failure in American history. But Detroit didn't stay down for long. It took many years to build up to that collapse, and anyone paying attention could see the warning signs. The automotive industry was Detroit's bread and butter since the early 1900s, but in the 1970s it started packing up and moving out. Factories relocated to cheaper states, then to even cheaper countries. Each departure triggered a domino effect. There would be fewer jobs, which meant fewer people. Fewer people meant less tax revenue, and less tax revenue meant the city couldn't keep basic services running. By the early 2000s, Detroit was a wreck. More than 1 million people had fled since the 1950s, leaving behind empty neighborhoods. Police took hours to respond to emergency calls, assuming they showed up at all. Fire departments limped along with equipment so old it belonged in a museum rather than fighting actual fires. The book Cadillac Hotel told Detroit's story perfectly. This magnificent building had once been the world's tallest hotel. It had 1,100 rooms across 31 floors that welcomed travelers from around the globe. By 2013, it stood as a hollow monument to better times. But nothing captured Detroit's downfall quite like Michigan Central Station. This architectural masterpiece had greeted millions of visitors since 1913, with high ceilings and ornate details. When it closed in 1988, scavengers picked it clean like vultures. Windows were shattered, copper pipes vanished overnight, and graffiti artists took over the walls. The nearby book depository suffered the same fate. It was gutted and forgotten. When the bankruptcy papers finally got filed, most people figured Detroit was finished. Urban planners started wondering which Rust Belt city might be next. Then something unexpected started happening. Even at its lowest point, Detroit still had something worth fighting for. And when the right people finally took over, the city's story started to change. The turnaround didn't begin with politicians making grand speeches or the federal government writing massive checks. Instead, it started with a handful of visionaries. In 2015, Detroit Future City partnered up with a global engineering firm, Bureau Happold, to rebuild the entire city. Their approach was brilliant in its simplicity. They decided to treat Detroit like engineers, treat a failing bridge, examine every structural element, identify what could be saved, and design solutions that could actually support the weight of renewal. The real good news came in 2018, when Ford Motor Company announced they were buying Michigan Central Station and 90 acres around it for $90 million. The same building that had been rotting away for 30 years suddenly became worth a $700 million investment. At the same time, local investor Dan Gilbert began snapping up downtown properties that had sat empty for decades. These high-profile bets sent a clear signal that Detroit's future was worth investing in again. Signs of cultural life quickly followed. Concerts by Diana Ross and Eminem sold out at once-boarded venues, while grassroots groups like Black Tech Saturdays brought hundreds of local entrepreneurs together each month. For the first time in over 50 years, Detroit's population started growing again. The city that had become America's biggest failure story was writing a comeback that nobody thought possible. The early wins proved Detroit could turn the lights back on, but the real transformation is happening right now. 8 major projects are underway, each one designed to reshape the city. At the center of it all is Michigan Central Station, and honestly, it deserves every bit of attention it gets. This Beaux-Arts masterpiece sat abandoned for 30 years, becoming Detroit's most famous ruin. The restoration by Ford Motor Company salvaged what they could and rebuilt what they couldn't. When they finished, Michigan Central Station looked like it had time-traveled from 1913 to 2024, keeping all its original grandeur. Today, Michigan Central Station houses startups working on autonomous vehicles, labs developing next-generation transportation technology, and event spaces that actually draw crowds. Right next door sits another success story that doesn't get nearly enough credit. The book depository is now Newlab, which houses over 100 startups from around the world. The book tower represents perhaps the most painstaking restoration effort in Detroit's modern history. This 38-story Renaissance-style skyscraper had been empty for 6 years when Dan Gilbert's Bedrock Company took over the project. They poured nearly $400 million into the restoration, and every dollar shows. Stone panels were repaired, glass ceilings were restored to their original splendor, and empty office floors were converted into luxury apartments, extended-stay hotel suites, restaurants, and event venues. Architecture magazines worldwide have called it one of the most beautiful repurposed buildings on the planet, and after seeing the before and after photos, it feels like that praise is rightfully earned. Then there is the City Modern project. This 8.4-acre project took 3 original Victorian brick mansions and converted them into high-end condos, then surrounded them with modern townhouses, apartments and retail spaces. Before the development, these plots were mostly empty land where weeds used to grow all over the place. Now they form a cohesive community designed to attract new residents and give them reasons to stick around. Then there is the Little Village District, which has become a laboratory for creative, adaptive reuse, with 2 projects that show how imagination can breathe life into forgotten spaces. The Lantern started as an early 1900s bakery warehouse that had been rotting away for decades. The restoration turned it into an arts campus with non-profits, studios, and event spaces. All of these are connected by a central courtyard that has become a magnet for local creatives. The energy there is infectious. You can feel the excitement of artists who finally have proper space to work and showcase their talents. Just steps away, the Shepherd Arts Center proves that even churches can get second acts. This old house of worship got a modern makeover. New cubic volumes have been inserted into the nave and transept to create art galleries. Plus, there is now a cozy library that has become a neighborhood gathering spot. The Detroit Public Theater represents another clever transformation. This building started life as an automotive repair garage in 1919. It was the time when Detroit was the undisputed car capital of the world. Now it's a 200-seat black box theater that energizes Detroit's performance scene, proving that the city's tradition of innovation extends far beyond the auto industry. The location in Midtown means theater-goers fill nearby restaurants and bars, creating the kind of economic ripple effect that urban planners dream about. Then we have the Siren Hotel that rounds out this transformation tour with. The building served as headquarters for organ manufacturer Wurlitzer in the 1920s, during an era when Detroit's wealth seemed limitless. After decades of neglect, it's now a boutique hotel with interiors that channel early 20th century sophistication. Business travelers and tourists who want something more interesting than generic chain hotels are flocking there. This has added to downtown's growing reputation as a destination worth visiting. But anyone calling Detroit's revival a complete success either hasn't looked past the glossy magazine spreads or is trying to sell you something. For every stunningly restored skyscraper, there are still neighborhoods where the poverty rate hovers around 30%, which is nearly 3 times the national average. In the areas seeing the most investment, rising housing costs are forcing out long-time residents. This is happening especially in historically black communities that helped build Detroit's cultural foundation. The city also has more than 40 square miles of vacant land, and not every empty block has developers lining up with plans. Corporate investment has been critical in sparking the comeback, but the gains haven't reached everyone. Also, programs like Black Tech Saturdays and Google's Code Next are helping open doors for local entrepreneurs and students, but no single initiative can undo decades of inequality on its own. Detroit has gone from bankruptcy and abandoned landmarks to billion-dollar restorations and bold new projects that are giving the city a second life. From Michigan Central Station to the Book Tower, these transformations prove the Motor City still has plenty of drive. Personally, I think Detroit's comeback is inspiring, but the challenge will be making sure the revival benefits everyone, not just the downtown core. What do you think? Is this rebirth truly sustainable or just a glossy makeover? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this, explore the channel for more stories on architecture, design, and mega projects shaping cities around the world. See you in the next one.